To look through a prism has science and magic. Meanwhile, today scientists do not look enough through prisms, and there are more mysteries in the light, even if there are advances in optics to reach to see the invisible to the human eye. Newton, looking at light through prism, discovered the magic of light composed of all colors, and fusing all of them became white light again, as if it inverts and self-corrects. In 1800s, a German, Herschel, placing the rainbow from the sun over thermometers, there was hardly any difference in temperature between colors, but where the sun moved and there was no light, there was a thermometer that went 2 degrees up in the range of the red and 2 degrees down in the range of the ultraviolet. With this, we know that there is more than colors in the light, and we arrive to discovery of the whole electromagnetic spectrum. Everything is connected from sound to light, and even further to gamma rays into the tiniest waves. In those years, it was also discovered that with the luminosity of something incandescent, its chemical composition is known and already being foreknowing the full electromagnetic scale. Fraunhofer had seen black zones of absorbed color and luminous areas where color is emitted. So when we place a substance from the periodic table of elements to burn, the light emitted is analyzed with a spectroscope. Therefore, the colors make up the ladder of biological life. And surprising is that color is absorbed and emits what we call its complementary color. These are inverse waves. There are 7 orbits in the atoms, and the colors of the rainbow are the result of the energy left over after jumping an electron from one orbit to another. The small jump is red and a larger jump is violet. The ultraviolet enters into the nucleus. We still do not understand why the photon manifests as a wave or a particle. Finally, they captured it in photograph. When we are now discovering the use of biophotons as responsible to communication between cells. When there is a lot of sparks inside the body, they are calling for attention because they are not well. They are the bioelectric circuit inside the body that now we're starting to understand. We already have all the technology with this magic of biology and physics, but they forgot to use it for medicine. All biochemistry is in light and colors. The medicine is immersed in chemistry and has forgotten that the biology, physics of colors is pure chemistry. The French chemist Chevreul demonstrated the chemistry of colors, tints and fatty acids, and also studied aging related to color. That means in color. You see, all are from the same time in history. Chemistry started the pharmaceutical industry, and the colors they left to the industry of printing. Character forgotten for not knowing he is a scientist defined even better the science of colors and the theory of refraction. The literary Johann Goethe, he explains that from the tip of the prism, violet and blue ray that are faster waves come out, and from the base of the prism that slows it down, red and yellow come out. If this one opens, we see orange, and if the other one opens, we see dark blue. Then these rays are joined and cross by the center, and then green comes out being more luminous in intensity. And if they are joined by the two ends, magenta comes out with more light intensity as well, for being the union of two rays. Now comes the real magic. If you place a color filter in front of the rainbow ray, the complementary color disappears from view. Putting red in the skin inside the body becomes cold blue and helps inflammation and pain. I have used in therapy with spectacular results. Of course, it's important to know which is the color that does not absorb that person enough, because if you give them the color they have in excess, they will be imbalanced pretty fast, with immediate negative reactions. For this, I use voice analysis relating musical notes to colors. Photosynthesis is the most important biological life It is a spark of light, lightning inside the water, creator of life. Hemoglobin is the same chemical composition as chlorophyll, only with iron in the center instead of magnesium. Here you see how a plant dies if it is inundated by green light, due that it needs its inverse complementary, the red-violet ray. Even more, they have forgotten to study because it happens that all life biology absorbs a color and emits the complementary color inverse wave. It does a flip. This also happens inside the mitochondria, the motor of life. It can be a flip, a regress to the cell, to the past, to regeneration. It is known that light enters and influences the mitochondrial functions, and knowing how to use it could cause that of an electrical polarity, as do the complementary inverse colors. We can regenerate as the lizards do to grow the tail. If we go to the past, we are going to coherence and organization. That is the latest theory of physics. This constant motor of life, yin-yang, complementary color, happens inside our bodies. The blood is blue and becomes red when it touches the external oxygen. Arterial blood is red with oxygen and venous is blue. Science seeks to understand the invisible, that if it's much more than the visible, without even understanding the visible yet. It is said that the octave of visible light now, with mathematical calculations and not looking through a prism anymore, it goes from 380 nanometers to 750 nanometers, the tiny measurement of space. And usually in physics, they multiply by 2 to raise octaves and divide by 2 to lower octaves. An octave is the same as a C, D, E, F, like the musical notes. The next C is the next octave. They are divisions of logical segments. This connects the sound through ultrasound radio frequencies to visible light. Apparently, no one has connected octaves from light to sound or vice versa, and there were huge holes of frequencies that do not belong to any octave. The visible light should be a complete octave, and by relating it to sound, we would also have 7 colors with 5 intermediate colors, the same as 7 musical notes with 7 semitones, or what we call sustain, like the 7 electrons of orbits in the atom. In fact, what it shows are many frequencies holes. They do not belong to any octave between C to B. It means that octave of light is not complete with what the current science says. There is more visible light than what they've decided, and right now we have discovered it. The same as the inventors of Leafy, the internet with LED bulbs that will be implemented in the near future. They came to the same conclusions with different purposes. If you see here, this page of calculations to convert space nanometers to hertz of frequencies of time, if we put 750 nanometers, give us a figure of whole numbers. Very difficult to reach when we have a figure of 15 numbers. 750 nanometers is 400 terahertz, 412 zeros. And if we put 380 nanometers that they say, it gives us a figure with many different numbers as expected. By adding 5 nanometers to the violet side, when we write 375 nanometers, we get a whole number of 800 terahertz. We also see an almost black strip at the end of the infrared, and violet always spreads without limit with luminosity, without distinguishing the color magenta, and to the violet we see it weaker in the rainbow ray. Those are the 5 nanometers to arrive to the whole correction numbers of the full octave of visible light. From 375 to 750 nanometers equals 400 to 800 terahertz. If we lower it to the musical scale, the mid-octave of the piano has 5 hertz more, and in the temperate division of the notes, you see that it's perfect as in mitosis in biology. 8, 16, 32, 64, 128, 256, 512, etc. At the end is the perfect biological scale. There are so many musical scales and so many discussions of which is the perfect one that I do not pretend to tell the musicians to use this one. The center of A is not 440, not 432 of the famous solfeggio. It's 445 Hertz. That's why I use it in the voice analysis program I'm presenting you here, BioLux Sonic. Science began with Pythagoras observing the sound waves and continued with the light prism and Newton. The proposal is to return to research of light and sound with the advances of today for the physics of health, energetic medicine of the future. With the software and the mobile applications, BioLux Sonic. Johann Goethe did not imagine that his theories would end up in a mobile application and reach a lot of people. Light manifests itself in colors, in a constant pendular yin-yang movement. It absorbs one color and reflects its complementary color. The warm red inside the body inverts to cold blue. Inverse waves create the motor of life and its infinite energy, and the colors are the emotions.